Okay, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to draw and annotate a diagram that explains the different processes involved in the global hydrological cycle. And this is a common exam question. It can be worth 6 to 8 marks, and you're going to be marked mainly on the quality of your annotations that explain the different processes that you have identified in the global hydrological cycle. Okay. You're going to want to have read the key idea here first of all, so you might want to just pause and have a quick read of that. And then let's go ahead and look at how to do this. Now, this tutorial is asking you to draw this diagram. So if I could ask you to get a bit of paper, just like you've done with the 4 different river features, draw the diagram that I'm showing you. Add all the annotations that I will explain to you, but I'm only going to write the label. What you then need to do is write the explanation that goes with that label, and then take a photograph of it and insert it in this space of the hydrosphere number 4 Google Doc. Okay, so let's get cracking. Let's have a little look at what we want to do. First thing you want to do is we're going to do this as a cross-section diagram. So let's just create the sea down here, and we're going to create some land that looks a bit like a mountain. Okay, so down here we've got the sea. Okay, and we've got high land up here at the top. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say that heat energy from the sun causes water in the oceans to evaporate. Okay, and that's quite a key process here, that it's water's evaporating from the sea because of the energy from the sun. As the water rises, it condenses into clouds because the water particles cool. So you want to add that annotation. So water particles cool and condense into clouds. Okay, so these are the labels I'm showing you, but you want to make sure you add the annotations. Right, next one is global winds transfer these clouds to the land. Okay, that's the annotation. At some point, the clouds precipitate. So precipitation occurs where water returns to the earth. Okay. Now, water is going to do a number of things when it gets to the earth. So some of that water is going to rapidly transfer back to the sea as a river or as some form of surface runoff. And it's rapid because it's flowing on the surface. Okay, so that's another annotation. Some of the water is going to soak into the soil. Now, here's your first keyword. It's going to infiltrate into the soil. Okay, and it will transfer through the soil until eventually joining a river. Now remember, you don't just want to write infiltration, you want to actually say this is where water soaks into the soil and moves through the soil, transferring slowly to the river. Okay. Some of the water will further transfer into the rock below it. Now this is a process called percolation. So I'm just going to write percolation here, and you then want to say this is where water soaks into rock or is absorbed by rock and then very slowly transfers to the sea, often via a river. Okay. Now, that's the water transferring. So it's either transferring on the surface in the river, it's infiltrating into the soil and then slowly transferring through the soil towards the river and then the sea, or it's percolating into the rocks and then gradually transferring slowly to the sea. There are other things that can happen in this cycle. Some of the water, and this is where you want to draw some little trees. So I'm just going to do them as green. Some of the water is going to be intercepted by trees. So So this is just water that's falling onto the leaves of trees. What you want to then say, when water is intercepted by trees, the roots of these trees or plants or anything with vegetation will then absorb this water and store it in the plant or the tree. When the plant or tree heats up, the water will then actually, and there's another key word here, it will transpirate out of the plant back into the atmosphere. Now, transpiration, which is a bit like evaporation or condensation, transpiration is just where a plant heats up and basically the plant sweats and that turns back into the gas and enters the atmosphere. But the label you need to add is water stored within plants is then transpirated back into the atmosphere. In this case, any water hitting plants never makes it to the river. It's just going straight back into the atmosphere. All right, let's just look at a few other things. Some of the water will fall high in the mountains as snow. And then because of colder temperatures, it will be stored there for a period of time until eventually when it heats up, it will then melt and flow across the land back to the sea. Okay, the key idea is that some of it falls as snow and is stored. Now that might just be for one season, wintertime, or it might be over a number of years. Some of the water will flow into a lake, somewhere on the course of a river possibly, and then it might be stored in the lake for a prolonged period of time. Some of the water deep underground that's percolated into the rock will also be stored in aquifers. So you can add aquifer to your diagram and say this is where water is stored deep underground in rocks for long periods of time. So water is being stored as snow high up in the mountains. It's being stored in lakes, or it's being stored deep underground in aquifers, or it's actually also being stored in plants. Okay, right, you've got all of the key words, the labels. You've also got my explanations. If you go further down this document, you will see each of these words I've introduced to you fully explained on the next few pages of Hydrosphere number 4. Okay, but you want to draw this diagram, make sure each label is fully annotated with an explanation for what that label means, and then take a photograph of it and upload it to the your Google Drive, and then insert it into your Hydrosphere number 4 Google Doc.